the revolutionary ankle lock system, an integrated brace built into the boots, delivering unrivaled support, protecting ligaments from twists, tears, and trauma.
Matt Lenihan for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store, our Kings, Dan Rafael. Welcome back once again. How's things over there, my friend? How are we?
Well, I was up super late, bordering on early, watching the World Series baseball game, so I'm a bit tired, but what a hell of a game that was. I mean, I love boxing, but I love baseball also, and that was an amazing game.
Did your team win? I don't keep up with baseball as much. My
I mean,
American sports knowledge is gone.
I'm a New York Yankees fan, so I didn't have a dog in the fight between the Toronto Blue Jays and Los Angeles Dodgers, but it was a great game. I loved every minute of it. It was like 5 hours and 40 minutes. I watched every pitch. It went until about 2:30 in the morning Eastern time. It was sick. I've been watching baseball 50 years. Maybe the best baseball game I ever watched in my life.
That is long. That is so long.
Tell me about it.
5 or 6 hours.
Well, they basically, I mean, I don't know, in England, they don't follow a lot of baseball, I guess, but they play in baseball, one game is 9 innings. But because it was a tie, they play extra innings. They played 18 innings. They played, in essence, 2 full games until somebody finally won the damn thing.
Well,
so, awesome game.
Happy days. Well, look, let's talk about sort of the trending topics, the news over the last 24, 48 hours. Obviously, the weekend and the results that came from that. But let's start with this. We touched on this when it was sort of thrown into the ether. I want to say, not the last time I saw you in Vegas, but the one before, the Mayweather Pacquiao stuff. Now, this came from, I believe, Mike Coppinger, which says that Netflix have an interest in staging Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao Part 2 in 2026, whether it be beginning and the end, wherever. I will say the phrase you used when I asked you about this in Vegas the first time. I'll just let you take it away.
I remember it.
Yeah, I bet you do. But anyway, yeah, this rematch. Manny's now, he says he's an active fighter. Obviously, we haven't seen Floyd for a while, other than a few exhibitions here and there. But Netflix are investing in the sport, and they believe that'll bring big eyes. Just give me your, I suppose, your initial reaction to this talk coming up to the table again.
Well, number one, I don't view what Netflix is doing as, quote, investing in the sport. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. What I see them doing is what smart streaming services typically will do, is they want to spend their money for tentpole events, whether it's a boxing match or any other, event that they want to do. So I don't think we're going to, if you do a Canelo Crawford fight, if you do a Mayweather Pacquiao rematch or whatever the case may be, a Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, not really, I guess, not technically an exhibition, but you understand, like not a serious fight. Like they'll do those types of events, but I don't see them doing, regular world title action, on a regular basis. So, but with that aside, number one, unfortunately, the discussions about the Pacquiao and Floyd rematch are real. How far down the road they are, I can't tell you. I don't know the answer to that. But as I said to you in Las Vegas, I'd rather set myself on fire than watch that rematch, because it was, I've said that, I'm not even joking about this. It was the worst experience of my 25 plus year career covering boxing. Absolutely horrible in every sense of the word. The fight stunk. That was the culmination, but everything about it was horrible. I have no interest personally. What I found interesting is that I don't know, a month and a half ago, there was an announcement that Floyd Mayweather was going to fight Mike Tyson in an exhibition match. So I'm not sure where that fits into the situation. I mean, supposedly they have a signed agreement for that fight pending landing, I guess, some kind of broadcast partner. Whether they've done that or not, I don't know. But, it seems like Floyd, for a guy that's been retired for almost 10 years, is pretty busy.
Yeah, and so I was looking at this, and obviously the talks for Pacquiao, aside from this rematch, were Rolly Romero. And obviously the fight he had before with Barrios obviously included a world title. So they're looking at, if Pacquiao becomes world champion, then him and Floyd, they don't have to fight for a belt. The names, if they do it on Netflix, everyone will watch anyway. But
sure.
Do you think, maybe the first part of next year we see this exhibition between Floyd and Mike, and Manny Pacquiao fights Rolly Romero? There's no guarantees in boxing he wins that fight anyway. It is what it is. So
right. If he fights Romero, he'd be fighting for his belt, I guess, the WBA title.
Mm-hmm.
How it shakes out, who the hell knows? I hope that it's just early talk, early stages, and it doesn't get made. You're making me sick just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have no interest.
Is it a shame to you that we've seen like two sort of Hall of Famer pound for pound greats when they've been out the ring so long, like in how we sort of see them when you're talking about the fights coming up and the ones that we remember them for, then coming back again? Is that the bit that annoys you the most? Forgetting obviously how the fight week would be.
It's just a matter of like, do we not have anything fresh in boxing? Is it so pathetic that we have to run back a shitty fight from 12 years ago? I mean, look, Manny looked pretty good when he fought Barrios in July. It wasn't like he looked like an old man. I thought he won the fight, to be quite honest. A lot of people thought he won the fight. Floyd hasn't been in the ring in a real fight, quote unquote real fight, because his final official fight was against Conor McGregor, who was making his pro debut. You got to go back to 2017 for that fight. So we're coming up on a decade since he's been in the ring in an official fight. He has had 7 or 8 exhibition matches. And if you've ever spent 30 seconds watching them, other than when he absolutely nuclearized the tension from Japan, the kickboxer, who was a 122-pounder at that point, coming up in weight, who's now become a professional boxer, other than destroying him in one round and just blasting out a guy that was just not even, in the ring with him in any meaningful manner. Every single one of Floyd's exhibition fights have sucked, literally been horrible to watch. Nothing happens. And Pacquiao was retired for 4.5 years or so, or 4 years, and then he came back and looked okay against Barrios. Why are we even thinking about revisiting that? Why? Because there's a bunch of idiots out there that will watch the fight thinking, oh, these are two huge names, forgetting how horrible the first fight was, that has no real bearing on the current day boxing scene in terms of pound for pound and championships. Win or lose, it doesn't enhance or detract from either man's legacy. It's just a whatever. I just don't. Who gives a shit, being honest?
No. A sidestep to that, I want to talk about the boxing this weekend. It got a lot of traction, mainly because of how it ended. So your opinions on it, and mine sort of still differ now when I look at it. But the fight got stopped. Fabio Wardley was throwing a hell of a lot of punches. Parker was riding a lot of them. But the referee made the call. Fight's over. Not throwing back or whatever he did. Howard Foster does get a lot of stick on social media, and there's been some calls over the years. But what was your initial take straight away? Was that is a really bad decision? Did you see the replay, and then is it always the same for you? Because I was sort of mixed on this, and a few of the guys sitting ringside came to me and said it was the right decision, like heavyweights who were sat there, and I was like, So I'm still like, I don't really know.
Yeah, I thought it was a terrible stoppage. I've said it many times since the fight occurred. As I posted on my social media, I thought it was a bad stoppage in real time when I was watching it live. And then when I went back and watched the replays, I thought it was actually even worse, because you could see just how many of the shots that Fabio Wardley, you knew he was throwing a lot of punches, but so many of them were missing. And even ones that landed, some of them didn't land clean. It would glance off of Joe's shoulder or arms, that type of thing. Of course, he did get hit with some punches. And he went for a decent stretch where he really didn't throw a lot back, but eventually he did throw back. Like a few seconds before Howard Foster intervened, he had thrown a left hook that pushed Fabio Wardley back and got him off of him before he went back into the ropes. So, to me, in that situation, I thought it was a terrible stoppage. They were both gassed out. I've made the point that, in my opinion, and I think it was backed up by the way that Joseph Parker reacted to when the stoppage occurred, that he was very tired, but he was not hurt. He didn't. He knew where he was. He had his senses. He hadn't been knocked down. Not that it matters specifically, but he was winning the fight. I think that was pretty clear to anybody watching, including Howard Foster. My point is, in that moment, it's just not a good stoppage. I mean, Fabio Wardley put up a good fight, and he was even more gassed out, I think, at that point. I don't know if he could have thrown 3 or 4 more punches at that point. You saw when he flopped down on the canvas when it was over. I'm sure part of that was, in happiness and joy of winning the fight. But I'm sure part of it was because he was fucking spent.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was one of them moments where you're like, is that where the referee then has to sort of smell the occasion and realise, obviously, safety's paramount. Like, God forbid anything happens, because you know yourself, if Wardley then flatlines Joe and anything's happened, the referee then says, well, he's not throwing back after Alan, and he becomes under thingy. But then is it about, having a cool head in that hot kitchen where you can handle the occasion and realise, the importance of the fight? And it's I suppose the same in every fight. You've got to treat them the same, but you've got to know kind of when that barrier is.
But Joseph Parker, he was not at the point where the fight needed to be stopped. I never thought for 1 second that Parker was like a punch away from being severely knocked out or hurt. Yeah, he was tired. He was taking punches, but Joe's had a good chin, and he was, winning the fight. And it was, he was doing his thing. And Wardley, look, he fought a good fight. I have no negativity about Fabio Wardley whatsoever. But it was just in my mind, the ending of that fight ruined what was a tremendous battle, a fight that a lot of people will look at the end of the year and talk about among the contenders for fight of the year. On the list of like the honorable mentions and that sort of thing. Given what was at stake, I just feel like it was that Joe got a raw deal. And people said, well, he was completely out of it, or they're just lying to themselves because they didn't actually watch it. When you see, as soon as, they say, well, Joseph Parker didn't protest. Well, yeah, he did, because as soon as Howard Foster waved off the fight, you could take a look at the look on Joe's face, and then he basically pushed Howard Foster off of him. He was so pissed off about it. Now, Joe is a gentleman and a really super nice guy, so he went to the press conference, and in his post-fight, in the ring interview, at neither of those locations did he make a big stink about the referee. He was very humble and gave a lot of credit and congratulations to Fabio Wardley, wished him luck in what was next. Obviously said he would like a rematch. Maybe he'll get one down the road. It certainly won't be next if Wardley's fighting Alexander Usyk for the undisputed championship. So don't take Joe's sportsman like conduct after the fight to mean that he wasn't pissed off, but he was very clear that he felt like he could continue, and I felt like he could, and it was just a bad stoppage. End of story. I mean, just go back and look at it.
The flip side to that, Fabio Wardley, obviously no fault of his own. He realised what he needed to do. He needed, from my eyes, it looked like he needed to press to get the stoppage, or at least get a knockdown before the fight to even have the judges flip it or maybe have it close. But look, he persevered, and his story is so unique. When we look at it over here, and it's this white collar boxer who's just gone through the ranks, and you're looking, going, at what point will he be tested? Now, the last fight against Justice Huni, he was tested throughout the whole fight and managed to pull it out. I
think that helped him.
Yeah,
he talked about in the build up to the Joseph Parker fight that kind of like he was not unnerved by that. Like, he knows in his mind anyway that he's got the punching power, that whatever the scorecards say, that he has the ability to come back. It's a similar mentality that I've talked to Deontay Wilder about. When Deontay would be in certain fights and was down, he was able to come back because he knew no matter what, if you touch him with the right hand, you can get him out of there. He would always talk about how, my opponent needs to be perfect for the whole fight. I need to be perfect for, 1 second, which is the point that he can land the punch. And I think Wardley had sort of that similar mentality, and he was able to do that enough to get, in the Huni fight, to drill him with one shot and put him out. And then, of course, in the fight on Saturday with Parker, to do enough to get Howard Foster to step in and stop the fight. And, one of the other reasons, by the way, that it was such a distasteful stoppage to me is because Howard Foster, and I've said this before, has been a terrible referee for decades and is known for having very, very questionable stoppages all through the years.
Oh, no, I saw your point, so that's why I'm referencing it, so seeing what you were saying across the thing. In terms of Wardley's next fight, we're hearing that obviously it should be Usyk, whether Usyk, with the belts and stuff like that, what he decides to do. What a remarkable journey that is to get to that point against Alexander Usyk for Fabio Wardley. And if he managed to do what in everybody's eyes, I'm sure, apart from him, his team, and a few others who know him, would be the unthinkable, that would be one of the most remarkable stories in the history of boxing.
It really would, because as you mentioned, he had no amateur fights. He had a handful of white collar fights. He was doing it, I guess, just to have fun and compete and maybe stay in shape. And 8 years later, he's on the precipice of fighting for the undisputed heavyweight championship. And I think that Usyk will fight him. I mean, you tell me, at this moment, is there a bigger fight for Usyk in the sport? He already fought Fury twice. He already fought Joshua twice. He already fought Dubois twice. Deontay Wilder's on the way out. Other guys that may have been interesting at one point or another, or maybe not in that position. Joseph Parker obviously just was defeated. Joe Joyce is kind of on the downslide. Zhang Zhilei down the downslide. Go through the list of guys. Adji Cabial deserves the shot, but I don't know if he has as big a name, at least in Britain anyway, as Fabio Wardley does at this point. And Cabial's scheduled for January anyway. So I feel like that Usyk will probably accept the challenge and do the fight. I don't think he wants to get stripped of the WBO title. Look, he gave up the WBO title because he was forced to after the first Tyson Fury fight. That was because of the contract that they had for the rematch. So he didn't really have a choice in that matter. He's not encumbered by anything right now. He has a mandatory that's due against Wardley, who is the WBO #1 and the interim champion. They're next up. Why would he give up the title in a fight, by the way, that he'll be it's a good, interesting matchup for a lot of reasons, but certainly Usyk will be the favorite in that fight. So I have to imagine that he would do the match.
Who else? I was surprised when I read about his retirement U-turn because when we've talked about this before, when you really deep it, he's not just beaten half these guys once. He's run it back. Like when he first dipped his toe in this division, you're like, not sure. Chisora gave him a really good fight. Don't think Dell gets enough credit for that. He made it really uncomfortable, and everyone was saying, "Oh, maybe he wasn't doing stuff."
But there was still no doubt that Usyk was the winner.
No, but it was. I'm saying it was. He dipped his toe, went Chisora, but then when you look at the names, and it's like Joshua twice, like without doubt. He's then beaten Fury twice. He's then beaten Dubois twice, obviously different orders and stuff. But you're looking around going, unless he goes, let's just do Moses Atama now and see what happens. You're not really. It's like who, or Cabell, obviously. But at what point is enough? Is what I'm saying. Like, does he go?
Well, the other thing,
what's the point?
Matthew, the other thing is you don't have to do a lot of thinking about this, right? Why would everybody swerve and look for some other opponent for Usyk to fight? Wardley is the mandatory. Wardley is due. He deserves it. He's undefeated. He's scored quality victories in his last handful of fights, including the Frazier Clark rematch, Adelaide, obviously the Parker fight. I mean, the guy's been on a really good run, and he deserves the shot. Why wouldn't you get it?
Definitely.
That's what boxing's about. Fight your number one challenger, and he's not a manufactured number one challenger. This is not a guy just handed the mandatory position. Whatever you think about Howard Foster's shitty stoppage, he earned the shot because he got the win.
100%. Look, just quickly, the last two press conference just been announced for Surreal Mathias versus Dalton Smith. That fight's taking place at the Barclays in January. A good fight. I know Dalton really well. Speak to him a lot. He's been chomping at the bit, waiting for an opportunity. He was there in Flushing Meadows in New York when he was obviously watching the previous fight between Puello and Matiaz, and he's ready. This is a really interesting matchup. Obviously, people in the States don't know the boxing. Dalton's more than capable. It's a really good fight, this, I think.
There's no question. It's a very good fight. I mean, he was, like you said, when Matias defeated Puello and won the WBC title to become a two-time title holder in the junior welterweight division. He was there in the ring. Turki Al-Sheikh faced him off. Said that would be next. He planned to do it on the card. He is doing that big show in November. That's going to take place in Riyadh. But in the end, they didn't have an actual contract, and the promoter for Matias decided to go and do things on his own. He ended up winning a purse bid when they didn't make a deal for the fight. And you look, originally he said he's going to take the fight to Puerto Rico, which is where Matias is from, but got bigger plans, I guess, and they're going to go to Barclays Center. Now, good luck to them, but it's a hard sell. Matias he may be Puerto Rican, and obviously New York is known for having a great Puerto Rican fan base. What I think they'll find out is that most of the Puerto Rican fan base, when they go to a big fight, they go to Madison Square Garden. They don't go to the Barclays Center. As a good boxing friend of mine told me years ago, when Rock Nation made the same mistake and they brought Miguel Cotto, who was a Puerto Rican great and was known for the big sellout crowds at the Garden, and they took him for a fight at the Barclays Center. The boxing person that I was talking to about it says, what the Rock Nation promoters don't understand is that the Puerto Rican fans don't cross the bridge, meaning they don't travel from the Bronx and Manhattan to go to Brooklyn. It's like another country to them. So it's going to be a hard sell because Matias does not have Miguel Cotto was a superstar. Matias is still basically unknown. And Dalton Smith, while I'm sure a popular figure where he's from, is anonymous in the United States. So while it's a really good matchup, I agree with you. As a hardcore boxing fan, I think it's a dynamite fight. Whether it translates to ticket buyers and whoever is going to broadcast it, I've heard. I don't think they didn't announce it. They said they'll announce the broadcast scenario at this news conference they've got coming up. But I was told that they're looking at maybe doing it as a pay-per-view. And I'm like, if they do it as a pay-per-view, you might as well blow your brains out because that won't do 10 buys.
I was just about to say, in terms of what I was surprised is I was looking at that fight, and maybe you've just educated me there on the Puerto Rican side, but for me, the theatre arena, I mean, you don't know what's available and what's not. So maybe that weren't available. I look at the theatre arena, MSG, and go, historic arena, slopes up. It's not the big arena, so you will get a crowd. Right. People will travel, and it'd be a big noise, and the Puerto Ricans will go to that now, obviously, like you've just said.
Well, I don't know what the availability is either, but obviously, if you're familiar with the venues, I know you are. Barclays Center is a major arena. That's like O2 Arena. It's like Madison Square Garden. It's a Beautiful. Big arena. It's an NBA home arena, NHL home arena. It holds about 20,000 or 18,000 for those types of events. The Madison Square Garden Theater is the upstairs, where the downstairs arena at Madison Square Garden, but much smaller. Where Madison Square Garden main arena can hold like 18 to 20,000 for a fight, the theater is about 5,000 for a fight. I've covered many fights there. It's a great, no matter where you're sitting, you got a great view of the ring. It's very easy to get to. It's right there in Midtown. It's literally sits on top of the train station. I mean, but again, I don't know what was available. But look, I wish them good luck, because the main thing is you have a promoter willing to go out there, put his own money up, put on the event. So I'm not hating on it. I hope they're hugely successful, because I think you got to have more promoters that bring events and have some vision to do these types of things. Because New York has, unfortunately, while they have still a regular array of events at the theater at Madison Square Garden, there hasn't been a regular menu of fights at the Madison Square Garden main arena. And same thing with Barclays Center. Now they're going to do this fight. Danny Garcia's company just did his card at Barclays Center not that long ago. I think there's only been like one fight in the Madison Square Garden main arena for the last few years. That was when MVP did the third fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. But it's been pretty low key in terms of the activity of the major fights in New York City for the last few years.
And just to finish off, I want to touch. It got announced a few hours ago. Actually, obviously by yourself. We've quoted it as the match room to promote Matiaz versus Josh Kelly for that world title fight. That is as well. When we talk about the hardcore fights, obviously Matiaz is a great fighter, but Josh Kelly's been chomping at the bit for years to get an opportunity at a world title. This is another very, very good fight to look forward to.
It sure is. It's going to be, as you said. I mean, I posted about that earlier today. They were scheduled to have a purse bid on, today as we talk on Tuesday. It had already been delayed for a week from last Tuesday because the two sides thought they were getting close, and they asked the IBF to put that off, and they did. And so on Monday night, Eddie Hearn from Matchroom, who was representing Josh Kelly, and Kathy Duva from Main Events, finally were able to make a deal and went both informed the IBF that they had an agreement in place. They still have to get the contracts. They got about 15 days to get those back to the IBF. But yeah, they called off the purse bid, and Murtaza will defend his title against Josh Kelly. He had been in conversations with Erickson Lubin, who was his mandatory. And right before the purse bid, like the day of or the day before, he pulled out of the purse bid because he decided to accept a more lucrative fight, a bigger fight, frankly, against Virgil Ortiz Jr., which is a dynamite matchup that comes up in a couple of weeks. And so when that happened, the next available contender on the IBF rankings was Josh Kelly. And like you said, Josh has been looking for a significant fight for a while. I think he's got fighting the real smaller type fights that he's been doing the last, year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. And Kathy and Eddie were able to make a deal. And January 24th, probably January 31st, I am told the agreement they made calls for the fight to take place on or before January 31st. Most likely going to take place in England, and it should be a good matchup.
Yeah, it's good. I like that, the fact we've got these proper fights, like these back-to-back sort of ones in January, and you look at the Dalton Smith Matias and obviously Josh Kelly and Matiaz, some really, really interesting fights as well. And when you've got a world title on the line, it's nice. You know what I mean?
Not mega fights.
No, but like when
not mega fights, but good way to kick off the year.
100%. I think the first quarter of next year is shaping up really nice. And by the way, for anyone sleeping on the Ortiz Lubin fight, that is a brilliant fight. I've been saying this for a while. I think people, when they see Virgil Ortiz, we know what he's doing next. Forget next. Erickson Lubin is a genuine opponent. Like, he's a good fighter. And that is going to be one that's not, well, I don't want to say too much because if it turns out to be one-sided, but it should be a really good fight on paper.
Yeah, listen, anybody that thinks that Virgil Ortiz and the fight that everybody's been talking about with him and Boots Ennis is like an automatic thing, for a lot of people, they hope that happens. But as I said, hold on, Erickson Lubin's going to have a lot to say about that. And, when Boots Ennis had that one-round knockout a few weeks ago against Lima, and he was talking about the prospect of fighting Virgil Ortiz and was asked about that, he said he wanted that fight. But you know what? If Lubin beats Virgil Ortiz, I'll fight Erickson Lubin. And then he also named other guys he wanted, Fundora and Xander Zeiss and other top fighters in the 154-pound weight class. But yeah, Virgil Ortiz got a real tough opponent in front of him coming up before he can start thinking about doing a Jaron Boots Ennis fight.
Absolutely. Well, look, Dan, we've ticked off a lot here. I really appreciate you jumping on. As always, giving us some of your time. Make sure as well, if you're listening, to subscribe to Dan's newsletter. Obviously, we look for Dan for breaking news as well, quite clearly, as we've mentioned in one of these stories. Make sure you click subscribe. The link will be in the YouTube description. It'll be on Twitter. We'll probably attach it to the IG story as well as the video link. And Dan, we will catch up very soon when I'm next over there. Not sure when it will be, but very soon.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
The revolutionary ankle lock system, an integrated brace built into the boots, delivering unrivaled support, protecting ligaments from twists, tears, and trauma.